Right. No, I agree. There is a lot of people out there that, you know, think that if you're outside the SEC, you don't know anything about football. So, coming into their conference, it is going to be a wake up call, okay? Because you're going to get hit in the mouth every week when you're playing Missouri or South Carolina or Ole Miss or Mississippi State, right? Whereas, you know, I mean, now I will say this: OU and Texas though are kind of used to that in a way because they were the top dogs, at least name wise, in the Big 12, right? So every team that played those two guys was wanting to knock them out.
Right.
Even when they had bad seasons, right? Like even, we had a bad season last year when Texas had their bad season. If they could talk about beating OU in Texas, then it made their day. It was like winning, championship for them. So OU is going to be used to getting hit in the mouth. Texas is going to be used to getting hit in the mouth, but it's going to be a different type of hitting, I think. So the last thing I want to talk about is: do you think the Big 12 will survive with OU and Texas leaving the conference?
I think that the new leadership in the Big 12 is infinitely better than what was the leadership in the Big 12 for a long time, and what probably led Oklahoma and Texas to, I don't know how all that stuff went down behind the scenes. I don't know, there's always been discussions. I don't know if they unilaterally reached out to the SEC. I don't know if they, if Oklahoma and Texas got together and said, "Hey, man, this shit's about to fall apart. Maybe we need to start looking at a new place to go." I don't know any of that stuff,
Right.
but the ship that was running the Big 12 was really, really stagnant, not very good. And now I think they're making moves. I even saw there's possible more expansion talk with some of the leftover Pac-12 teams. So, and that wasn't too long ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Some reports by Pete Thamel that a couple of those leftover Pac-12 teams, Pac-10, whatever they are, they're like almost shoe-ins to get an offer from the Big 12. Now I don't know when that'll come, but I think they will find a way to continue to be a conference. Now, whether it's a big picture conference, I don't know the answer. I mean, you look at who's left. There's not very many blue bloods anymore, and there's zero. When you take Texas and Oklahoma out of that mix, there's not any blue bloods anymore. There's not a lot of history of success anymore in that conference. So it end up being it's going to be a Power Five conference because we're running out of Power Five conferences, but it's not going to play like a Power Five conference. So I don't think you'll have some teams that from the Big 12 that get into the playoff, but will they be able to compete against Big 10 now that you got USC, LA headed that direction? Will they be able to compete against the schools from the SEC that get in there? Uh, on a micro level, yes, they will. Like some teams out of the Big 12 will beat some teams out of the SEC and Big 10 that make those playoffs, but it's not going to be a widespread deal. So they survive. I just don't think. I think it all just kind of depends on what your definition of survival means, and I don't. They're not going to be a major player ever again. I don't think.
Right. I think really maybe even to survive, I think that they will have to reach out to those Pac-12 teams like Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. They need to get those four teams to have any really respect around college football. All right. The conference itself will be considered like the Conference USA.
Right.
Right. Um, and yeah, they'll still have the label of Power Five, but they're not going to be a Power Five when it comes to the level of competition. ACC is barely a Power Five, and that's with Clemson and Florida State and Miami hanging them on by a thread. North Carolina's been okay, but they haven't. I guess Miami's been okay too, and Florida State was better last year than they had been in a long time. Clemson's national championships um, helped the ACC stay alive. Um, but uh, I don't think Clemson. I think Clemson's probably going to go down after Brent Venables left. I don't think they're going to get back up to the level they was. I mean, I could be wrong, and we will, we'll see what happens. But I don't think the. I think once OU and Texas leave, none of those teams that are bringing in are they're not bringing them in to help make the conference stronger. They're bringing them in to try and help the conference survive, and they're not bringing anything. None of those teams. Yeah, yeah. Cincinnati went to college football playoff, but that's because they didn't really have a choice but to put them in there. There was they were undefeated, and and they barely beat Tulsa that year in the conference championship game. So I just I really think that the Big 12 is going to fall apart unless they get the Pac-12 teams in. If those Pac-12 teams choose to go to other conferences, maybe the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is going to be a pretty solid conference. Just right underneath the SEC, they're going to stay solid. Um, but if they don't get those Pac-12 teams, they better start looking to go to the ACC to have any type of respect when it comes to football. Otherwise, it's going to be looking like the Conference USA. So,
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was saying, and the interesting thing about the whole Pac-12 deal is, if they do pull some of those schools from the Pac-12, like what the hell happens to Oregon and
yeah.
Oregon State and Washington State? What do those teams do? Do they join up with like Fresno State and
Mm-hmm.
some of those other uh, Western athletic type teams and form a conference? Or I mean, Oregon's got a name. I mean, I would think like somebody would reach out to Oregon and try to get Oregon to come be a part of their conference, maybe the Big Ten. I don't know. uh, but yeah, it's like ever ever since the announcement came out about Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC, all of these conference commissioners have been scrambling, trying to figure out how they, it's what they do next. It's kind of been like a domino effect, right? It hit the Big 12, obviously, and then you got the two schools out of the Pac-12 joining the Big 10. They're all the stable conferences are trying to add and get more power, and all the
Mm-hmm.
unstable conferences are running around cutting each other's throats, just trying to stay alive and have a job. So I don't know what this is all going to end up looking like. I kind of feel like in about 10 years you're going to have these two super leagues,
Mm-hmm.
they may not be called what they're called today, but you're going to have all the traditional SEC teams and the traditional Big Ten teams, and whatever teams come and join. I feel like there's these two leagues that just kind of lord over college football, almost to the point where they become their own thing. Like the NCAA isn't the sanctioning body anymore, and it's almost like a semi-pro type deal, which I'm personally not a huge fan of. But I think that's the we're headed
Yep.
with college football. And then maybe further down the road, what we call mid-major conferences today are a completely separate deal. Uh, they still get a chance to play some of those bigger schools, but as far as postseason goes, it's a totally different animal. I really don't. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of turns out over the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Yep. I agree with you 100%. Was there anything that you'd like to discuss we haven't discussed?
No, I appreciate you having me on the show. I think a lot of Texas fans are really excited about. I assume Oklahoma fans are as well. I think the college football world, especially, and probably the college baseball world, I think that Texas and Oklahoma are about to get into a buzzsaw that they can't get out of, and maybe it is slow for them for a while, but they're Texas and Oklahoma, and they're gonna be able to recruit. And sometimes all you need is just one little cool thing to happen, and the whole thing blossoms for you. Like if Texas could have beat Alabama last year, if they could have found a way to pull that out, I really think the trajectory, and although it was really good, it was a positive year for Texas compared to what they had
Yeah.
been doing. I think it's totally different. I think that year ends up totally different. And then who knows what happens in recruiting. So they're right there. I know Texas is right there, third and fifth recruiting class the last couple years. They're getting it in the right places, line, defensive line, and then they're adding, really highly rated skill guys. Not tons of them, but those really cream of the crop type guys at the skill position players. They're adding those types of guys, and so it, it'll be interesting to see for Texas what happens this year in 2023. I really like this could be a year where they kind of break out. And I'm not one of those guys that says, I'm not the Texas is back guy. I get tons of comments about Texas is back all the time. I don't say that stupid crap because to me, Texas is not back until they actually go out and do something. And then they may not even be back. You know, Tennessee had a really good year this year. TCU had a really good year this year.
Right.
It's stacking those types of years on top of each other that makes you quote unquote back.
Right.
Not one single event or not one single season. So, but I think Steve Sarkisian's building. If he can be successful this year on the field, if he can win a Big 12 championship this year on the field, his recruiting is just going to continue to get better and better. It's already crazy good. But if he can start winning some games like that and putting some championships in the back pocket, and then the SEC and have some early success, people are going to notice that, and recruits are going to notice that, and that's all Nick Saban did at Alabama, and that's all Kirby Smart did at Georgia was start recruiting and build a couple classes, win some games, win some big games, and then it was like a snowball. And you got what you got now. You got Georgia and Alabama basically fighting it out for who's going to go win the national championship every year now.
Yep. Yep. I agree 100%. Well, looking forward to the season. Are you going to go to your spring game?
I won't actually go to the spring game this year. My son plays baseball, so we got baseball all the time in the spring. But I will go. We're season ticket holders, so we'll go down and check out at least a couple games probably in Austin. We'll definitely go to the Red River Shootout over in Dallas, and so we're looking forward to it. I don't know if I'll make the cutoff to get Alabama tickets. We'll have to see how that goes. I've got some hotels. I got multiple hotels booked for the Alabama trip.
Okay.
I think I really want to go see a game in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
That was an awesome experience last year down in Austin. And so I think going and seeing it from the opposite perspective,
Mm-hmm.
being the less colored jerseys in the crowd, it will probably be pretty cool.
Yep, that would be pretty cool. Well, I hope you get a chance to go, and I hope you guys have a great season this year. Just one loss to the guys in Norman, but other than that, I hope y'all have a great season. Hope we meet up in the Big 12 championship too. I really do. That's my prediction, or not prediction yet, but that's my hopes and dreams. Is that OU is in Texas last year in the Big 12? Is they duke it out one last time for the Big 12 championship? That would be pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, it was kind of cool to see that a few years ago, and one of the more interesting things you look at, the early Big 12, especially once Stoops got there to Oklahoma, that Red River Shootout game really determined who was going to go play for the Big Championship from the South. And how cool would it have been if they didn't have those divisions? It would have been Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game, like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years in a row.
Right.
But that's just not the way it worked out with the division. So I think, you look at the new Big 12 that doesn't have divisions. I think there's definitely the possibility for that. And then when they move into the SEC, who knows how I pity the fool that's got to write the tiebreak rules for all the SEC sports going forward with 16 teams.
I know that is gonna be crazy. to figure all that out. But man, Sean, I really appreciate you coming on. I had a great time talking with you, and I hope you be willing to come back on, especially getting closer to football season.
Yeah.
Would love to have you on again. But man, it was really great talking with you. And like I said, I'm going to put your links in the description on the video, so you'll see that. But yeah, if you guys make sure you guys like and subscribe, and like if you haven't, also go to on YouTube his Horn Takes podcast. I think it's just under Horn on YouTube. It's under Horn Takes. So check his show out. Like I said, the link will be in the description when you watch the video. Like and subscribe to both of our channels, and hope everybody has a good evening. And see you next time.
Hook 'em.